Hello and welcome to the Today's Homeowner Weekly podcast. We're here to help you with the challenges we all face as homeowners. I'm Danny Lipford.
And I'm Joe Truini. And each week, Danny and I are here on the podcast to answer any and all home improvement questions.
And we want to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments at todayshomeowner.com/podcast.
Okay, Danny, let's get started.
Today's Homeowner podcast is brought to you by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. This week, we help one of our listeners out with some water stains they have on a piece of furniture they just refinished. They worked hard on it. They're pretty frustrated with it not being able to hold up to water glasses sitting on it. We'll give her some ideas on some of the ways to solve that problem.
Yeah, those white rings can appear on almost any finished piece of furniture, and sometimes they can be kind of difficult to get rid of. Sometimes they go away on their own, but in any case, we'll offer a couple of solutions. And we also talked to a homeowner who has a vinyl plank floor that is starting to shrink, and she can't figure out why. So we're going to discuss that with her.
Also, we have some great people that work with us here on Today's Homeowner. And one gentleman, Scott Gardner, is our creative director and the producer of the Today's Homeowner television show and has been doing that for over 20 years. We had a interesting taping project this week and for an upcoming episode, and I wanted to share with you a little bit of the behind the scenes of the glamorous world of home improvement television.
And I'm going to share a simple solution to how to make a simple crosscut guide from two pieces of wood so you can make perfectly square cuts with your circular saw.
There's a lot of variety on this podcast, so we'll get started. I'll tell you, Joe, we got an interesting email in this week where, it was an article that we had on the website quite a while back where a listener had asked about brown spots in her yard and actually sent a picture in. Right. Well, we come to find out what we kind of posed as an answer to that is there any chance you're using insect repellent prior to going out in the yard? And that's exactly what it was, is that the homeowner was stunned that we would come up with this, but that it's exactly what it was. They would take insect repellent, spray it all over their feet and legs and arms and, and everything. And everywhere they stepped, they killed the grass and, or damaged the grass. So
we have a new weed killer.
Yeah, new weed killer. You spray your feet and you stomp on weeds. And another listener wrote in and said she was having the same problem, read it on the website, and she says, I would have never thought about it. That's exactly what it is. And anyway, it's just very...
maybe it's the alcohol.
Yeah,
I
assume
bug spray.
I assume that it is. And but anyway, it's so that's part of the engagement, part of the Today's Homeowner community that we really love and that we're so happy to be with you every week. Joe, you're constantly working on your house. And I know that, Joe and I Skype back and forth. I'm in Mobile, Alabama. Joe is in Roxbury, Connecticut. So I can see the Skype, and over your shoulder there.
Right.
You're in the middle of a construction zone, Joe. We need to go ahead and wrap this project up here, buddy. What's going on?
I'm taking my time. I enjoy it so much. I don't want to finish it. Yeah, we upstairs off our bedroom, the master bedroom, we had one large room that I never enclosed. So the hallway comes down and kind of ends and goes into two big rooms, which is lovely. One of them is my office. The other is a library, more or less. But I decided to continue the hallway down and separate the two rooms so we can turn one into, I'm moving my office, so we can turn them one into a spare bedroom. But even a simple thing as putting up two walls. One of them is about 15 feet long. One's about 11 feet long. There's a lot of decisions to be made, including what kind of door do you want to put on there? Because I want, these rooms have always been open as one big room, so I want to keep that open feel. So first I decided I want a 3-foot door. I lined each of them up with a window, one that faces the back of the house, one's in the front of the house. So there'll be plenty of light coming into the hallway and to lighten up the now two spaces.
Right.
But I decided, I didn't want a swinging door because it's always going to be in the way. So I thought, I'll put in a pocket door. But a pocket door requires quite a bit of work and framing and everything else. So I said, okay, I'll do a barn door, a wall-mounted barn door.
A lot of people are looking at that as a possibility. And I've seen it work really well. I've seen other times like, why did you put a barn door there? Doesn't make sense.
But then I decided, the barn door is still always going to be in the way, right? It's either going to be on the wall side in the hallway or on the wall side in the bedrooms. You can't put anything there because the doors, in this case, the doors are going to mostly be open. But the thing I found that I decided on when I thought I was going to put a barn door is that 90% of the barn doors, the hardware you see, have straps that come down the face of the door and the back of the door, and they bolt and they screw through. And a lot of people like that look. I didn't really like that look so much. It just looked a little too much like a barn.
Right.
I discovered that they make top mount barn doors, which I'd never seen before.
Oh, I got
It's just
you.
a flat flange. It just screws to the very top of the door, so you don't see any hardware other than the rolling part.
So a little more
So you don't have the
accepted.
straps.
That would look a little more accepted. It would fit in better with a more contemporary look, or just a standard look inside without the iron look to it.
Right, exactly. And we live in a Cape Cod, which is a very traditional home, and so I didn't want that. So I was going to do that. Then I decided, you know what, forget it. I'm going to go back to the pocket door. I love installing pocket doors. As it turns out, there's actually less costly than doing the barn door. So I'm hanging 2 pocket doors. They'll be in the wall. You won't even see them. They'll be out of the way. You'll still have the wall surfaces to work with. So after all that, going back and forth, I decided, and I ordered the pocket doors. And I don't know if you can see them over my shoulder. I got a pocket door up, and I've bought the doors yesterday, and I'm going to prime them and paint them before I put them up.
But I think you're surprising a lot of listeners right now in saying the phrase, I like pocket doors, because so many people have had so many problems with pocket doors, them jumping off the tracks, them getting stuck, just different aggravating aspects to it. So what's your tip then? And, of course, I know what you're going to say. First of all,
What's that?
Quality Johnson hardware.
Well, I do use Johnson hardware.
Yeah.
I've had no problem with it. And most of the problems people have with pocket doors are the old pocket doors, from the 18th and 19th century. And they just, the doors were way too big for the hardware to support. But these doors, they make it really easy. When you put up the trim around the top of the door, there's one piece that you shouldn't put in permanently. You just screw it in so you can remove it, and that exposes all the hardware. So you can very easily adjust, the rollers up and down, remove them, replace everything. So it's pretty. It's very accessible if you do need to make
and
an
a lot
adjustment.
to do with the proper installation, making sure you're doing that right. Because once you put the drywall up over it or whatever wall, it's hard to get back there. I know I installed a pocket door for a gentleman, and it was a good situation, the same way you're talking about, where the swing of the door would have been a problem. I installed the pocket door. I worked on this thing, got it just right, oiled it up, everything was good, collected my check, and walked out the door. Early the next morning, I got a call from the gentleman.
That was fast.
And said, my pocket door, I cannot close it. It's in the wall, and I cannot get it out no matter what I do. What has happened? I said, well, it might have jumped off the tracks. I don't have any idea. So I go out there, and I look at it, and I cannot get it to move at all. And then I'm looking, then I look around on the other side, and there's a big, nice painting hanging on the wall.
I think I see where this is going.
He drove a nail straight through the pocket door, he said, I thought I was hitting a stud because it was pretty solid. Yeah, well, it is pretty solid because there's a pocket door you nailed through there, buddy. And so I pulled the nail out, and it worked just fine, other than there's a little repair
the hole in the door
like that. So you need to think about that anytime that you, and even like in a bathroom situation where you have like a toilet area and so forth, that you may even, I've seen people when they're mounting a toilet paper holder actually go deep enough with their bolts, their molly bolts or whatever, that they actually either go into the door, or it's in there enough that it scratches the heck out of it.
Oh,
when it goes
yes,
back
that's
and
even
forth.
worse.
Yeah. So when
that's a common enough problem, Danny, that there's actually the manufacturers have designed a solution. I know Johnson Hardware has metal clips you can buy very inexpensively that you put between the studs of the pocket door kit. You can attach 3/4-inch plywood. So that allows you to attach things to that pocket wall, as long as you don't go through deeper than 3/4 inch. But you can go, at least it gives you a surface to screw into without going into the door itself.
Well, as you know, I'm right in the middle of building my new house, and the first house I've built for myself in 28 years, and no pocket doors. We're not using any pocket doors there at all. But, one of the things I love are the hinge switches, so that hinge along the jamb, so that when I open the door, just like a refrigerator, when I open the door, the light goes on. When I close the door, the light goes off. And I've always liked those, for my closet, so that you don't have to worry about a switch. And if you have things in your hand, like going to the pantry, you open the pantry, and it's actually a small room, and you open that, the light comes on, and it goes off afterwards. So, and I'm using LED lights in there, so that works out well. And actually, my little audio studio I'm putting in the house will be the same way. I open it, the light comes on. I thought about a black light on that one. I don't know. I hadn't had a black light.
But then when you close it, the light will go off. You'll be sitting in the dark.
I know. Well, that's okay.
You have to have another light.
So just little simple things like that. But I've got all my drywall up. I've got my siding up. My roofing's on. I'm moving along on this thing. I might be in there by Thanksgiving. So.
That's ahead of schedule.
Yeah. So we're.
I thought you were aiming for Christmas.
No. Yeah. While you're sitting around the house or maybe mowing the lawn, which there's a lot of lawn mowing going on right now, or whatever task you're doing.
Especially with all the rain most of the country's been getting.
Exactly. That grass is growing and everything else. So hopefully we can help you with any of the challenges you're having around your home. Right now we're going to visit with Kathy, who has a kind of a frustrating situation here. Kathy, welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. Here's the situation. My husband and I took a kitchen table, sanded it down, stained it, and then put on 5 coats of polyacrylic, so it would have a good finish on it. Let it, dry. I did the coats 1 coat per day over 5 days. Brought it into the house, set it up to use. It's actually my son's table. And very first meal we had at that table, put a cup down and started to leave water rings. So I didn't know if there was a different product I could put on top of it to give it some more protection.
Boy, I tell you, we hear this kind of thing quite a bit. Joe, what do you think on that? I mean, they. Kathy and husband Michael did a pretty darn good job, it sounds like. I wonder, you mentioned that you moved it back into the house. Was it in your garage or outside on the porch?
It was in his garage.
I see. Okay. All right. Okay. What do you think on that, Jim?
Yeah, Kathy, these are white rings, I suspect, or white spots, not dark color. They're white?
They're white. And I did go online at the time when it happened, and we got the rings to go away, but we were afraid to do anything else, and we have put up almost like a cover on the table to protect it until we came up with a solution that might fix the whole thing.
Right. Well, first, there's nothing you can put on top of polyurethane to stop the stop moisture from causing these rings. If you leave a wet, you use a coaster, as our producer Dennis just suggested. But regardless, you're always going to have a little bit of water on it, and that's just getting absorbed by the finish. But it usually just goes away on its own. Now, 5 coats is a lot of polyurethane. I mean, very seldom do I recommend more than 2 or 3. So I'm not sure that would enhance the problem because there's so much. It's such a thicker.
And they were very light coats. I've used that polyacrylic on many. We redid our end tables, coffee table, and I put 4 coats, very lightly on that, and that's been like 3-4 years ago. Never had any issue, but then we don't eat at those tables either.
Right. Well, if the question is, you know how to remove the white ring, but how do you prevent it from happening? There's no secret here that you prevent it from happening by keeping wet glasses off the top, off the polyurethane, if that's going to continue to be an issue.
Well, I just didn't know if there was some type of thing that restaurants use, on their bar tops or their tables, because I don't see that issue at
restaurants. That's true. You don't, right? Yeah, well, they're probably using like an epoxy type finish that they pour on, like almost like a decoupage, which is something a little stronger. I can tell you a couple of ways to remove white rings, but I'm not sure how to prevent them other than, as I said, keeping the wet glasses off of it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your help, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay,
Thank you.
Kathy, absolutely. Thank you for being with us. And, sometimes it is kind of hard. We don't want to just throw an answer out there. Sometimes it's a little bit of head scratching. And I mean, first of all, any kind of wood, no matter what kind of finish or coating you have on it, you really need to protect it from moisture and from heat. I know I recently had a coffee cup put on and you thought, okay, it's a thick mug, and that coffee cup left it didn't really burn it, but I think just the moisture from the hot mug sitting down on, a 70-degree piece of furniture, it caused a ring. Now, I was able to get it off of there, but you really have to protect those, and that's what coasters are all about. So I think that's the solution here, and I don't know. That's kind of puzzling, though. And good question from her about, restaurants and bars and how they protect that wood. But I agree with you. That's probably a pretty thick coating of an epoxy type of clear finish.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But sometimes those white rings just go away on their own because it's just moisture. And once the moisture evaporates from the surface, they disappear. Often you don't have to do anything to prevent it from happening.
Certainly glad to be with you and glad to be able to share with you some things kind of behind the scenes. We talk about our Today's Homeowner television show a lot that's now can be seen in 90% of the country on over 207 very good television stations. And we've been working on it a long time. We're right in the process of taping our 22nd season on national television. And a gentleman that's been with me all along the way is Scott Gardner, our creative director and producer of the Today's Homeowner television show. Thought it would be good for Scott to drop by, and we'll talk about the agony of the week that we had this week. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
Scott.
much. Hey, Joe.
Well, the TV business is very glamorous, isn't it? Boy, I'll tell you, this week we did a very interesting project that we just wrapped up that you'll be able to see in 6 or 8 weeks on our Today's Homeowner television show. But it was a recycled patio, and it was a kind of an interesting thing, but we had a little bump along the way.
Yeah, the idea of recycling the materials that were already there for the patio was to make it obviously more efficient because you're recycling stuff, and less expensive, and hopefully less work.
Right.
2 of those worked.
Well, what happened? We had some. We're calling them patio stones. They're basically block caps that are about 2 inches thick by 8 by 16, essentially. And someone had somewhat haphazardly just laid them right on the ground with just a little bit of concrete on the back side of it. Not a slab, not a compacted base. I mean, all the things you're not supposed to do. And so we thought, okay, you pull these things up, chip a little mortar off of it. We'll have, it's 400 square feet now, so we're talking about 400 of these pavers. We say, we'll add a few more extra here and there, and we'll have it good. Well, it wasn't long before we realized that concrete was not turning loose. And did you see the faces of the homeowners, Scott, when we told them that their homework that night would be chipping all of that material off? We gave them an air gun, earplugs, goggles, and say, we'll see you in the morning. And it was just the most pitiful look as we drove off.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head, because we thought going in, it's just mortar. Somebody just threw a little mortar on the ground and stuck these stones down there, and mortar will peel right off those blocks.
Right. Yeah.
It was apparently concrete, and there was a lot of chipping done.
Well, to their credit, though, they did hang in there late into the evening, and when we came back, they had 120 of these things cleaned.
Wow.
And which was exceeded my expectations by about 100. And so we knew we would have to buy some new ones, but still, we plowed through it. But Joe, the heat index was between 105 and 110, no shade anywhere, and the work had to be done. So we had a long, tough week putting that project together.
So they were chipping mortar off of these concrete blocks that whole evening. Just in one evening, they got 120 cleaned
off?
Yes,
yes. So
wow. Sounds like those are 2 people you should hire. Those are good workers.
It was impressive. And that, that heat, Joe, I have never seen Danny sweat so much. Right. Except when he was trying to explain a new purchase to his wife. I mean,
right. Well, that's a weekly event.
Yeah. But I mean, in this environment, it's a new thing in this environment. It was hot. In fact, one day, Brad, our director of photography, pointed out we had a thermometer laying out on the set, and it was actually reading 102. And we had a thunderstorm come up that afternoon. It dropped from 102 to 81 in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Thunderstorm comes up, that cool wind starts blowing, the thunder starts booming, and the lightning starts popping. And
So to explain a little bit to our listeners about how the television show is done, we start at usually on a Monday, and we do some before photography and videography on the Monday afternoon. Then Tuesday morning, we go to work all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday, and then we try to wrap everything up on Thursday. Sometimes the weather messes that up. Sometimes just the course of the work.
Sometimes Danny messes it up.
Yeah, sometimes I hit my finger. Or my in this particular case, my boot blew out. I had a blowout on the boot that required a little construction adhesive and some duct tape. But other than that, we
have you been able to get that boot off since you put the construction adhesive on?
I did finally retire those boots after getting harassed a good bit. But we moved along on it, and then Chelsea does a great job in decorating and putting flowers and plants, and in this case, a brand new hammock and this kind of thing. So I can't wait for you to see the before and after of that. But Scott, you and I have been doing this together for a long, long time, but it's still so cool and so gratifying when we see the before, the start of the week, and we're able to show in the episode, in the course of a 30-minute show, the transformation, and then to be able to shoot the after. Pretty gratifying, isn't it?
Absolutely. And to see the look on those homeowners' faces, because Joe and Audra, the couple we were working with this week, just really cool people.
Oh, yeah.
And they worked hard.
They sure
but
did.
They were a little bit novices, you might say, as far as home improvement goes, as was borne out by the fire pit that Joe had constructed previously.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. He had a little bitty, we made fun of him a little bit. Not our Joe, but the Joe out on the job. It was a big enough, I guess you could put, I don't know, I guess it was about a 12-inch round circle. So I think you could dump a little charcoal in there, but that,
exactly.
That would be about
one
it.
briquette at a time.
But get ready for a brand new season of Today's Homeowner Television, and you can go to todayshomeowner.com/local listings to find out where you can find it in your neck of the woods. Scott Gardner, thanks for being with us. Right now it's time for our Best New Product segment, brought to you by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. Football season is right around the corner, and for football fans, that also means it's tailgating season. You need the right table to put the chili, burgers, or if you're in the South like me, crawfish. You no longer have to lug around that big clumsy table thanks to Lifetime's 48-inch fold-in-half table with adjustable height. The way it folds makes it so easy to move it around and to store it once you're finished with it. Plus, it has a convenient handle built right in. Also, it's stain resistant, which makes cleaning up a breeze. And the table's rust-resistant powder-coated steel frame makes it a must-have throughout the entire season. Once you get a table like that, you just use it for just about everything. For more information on the Lifetime plastic adjustable height fold-in-half table, log on to HomeDepot.com.
Hey, Danny, before we move on to our next call, I wanted to follow up on something you talked about earlier. We had given that recipe for making a weed killer out of vinegar, just a regular household white vinegar and some soap and some Epsom salt. Now, most white vinegar that you buy at a supermarket is about 5 or 6% acidity, which works well, kills most plants. But if you have a really tough plant you just can't kill, you can buy, I've seen it online, I've not seen it in stores, but you can buy a white vinegar that's 30% acidity.
Really?
And you use that stuff, and it will absolutely kill it. Boy. If you have poison ivy that you can't get rid of or some really tenacious plant, try that. So go online and see if you can find 30% acidity white vinegar.
Wow, you would think I thought all vinegar was all the same strength and so forth. And as many little recipes and things that we have for some homemade type of solutions for anywhere from removing wallpaper to killing weeds and everything like that. We should know that because we are vinegar experts, it seems like. So.
And pool noodle experts,
don't
forget.
Pool noodles, that's right. Yeah. That's what we
have a degree. We have 2 master's degrees.
Not sure either of those are going to help Janice that's with us right now from Florida with a vinyl plank flooring question there. Janice, welcome to the show.
Thanks for taking my call.
Certainly. Tell us what's going on there. A little frustration, I understand.
Well, we installed this plank vinyl flooring about 2 to 3 years ago. We replaced one floor at a time in one room, and now we're noticing that it seems to be shrinking, and it's not adhering to the floor. There's 2 different types of floor. One is upstairs, which is plywood, and downstairs, which is concrete, which were cleaned, and we weren't supposed to have to do anything, and now it's not holding up.
Well, let me ask you this. when you were installing it, did you go to the store and buy it and then bring it straight in and install it, or was it at your house for a little while?
Well, in some cases, it was at the house for a little while, and in some cases, it went right in, was installed right away.
I see. Because a lot of times when you should always, with flooring, put it in the space, the heated and cooled space that it is going to be installed in for, it's always good for a week or at least 2 or 3 days so that moisture content can be lowered, because what happens on something like this is that you may have had moisture in the material, you installed it, and then after your air conditioning system and heating system went through its cycles, it pulled that moisture out, which caused it to shrink. Would that be your thoughts there, Joe, as far as same exact thing?
Yeah, absolutely, Janice. Any type of flooring, including vinyl plank flooring, has to be acclimated to the space that it's going to be installed in. And a lot of people either don't realize that or just want to put it in. So that might be part of the problem. Also, vinyl flooring has been known to shrink in areas where it's been exposed to a lot of sunlight. So you're in Florida, so that might be an issue too. Now, I want to back up one step. Is this a glue-down floor? Or is this a floating floor where it's just snapped together?
Well, it's actually like a peel and stick vinyl. It had an adhesive on the back.
Right. So it's basically essentially glued down to the plywood.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, is this a relatively expensive vinyl floor? Did you pay good money for it? Do you think this is like a middle of the road or a lower end? Because a thinner floor, that's not made as well will move more, meaning expand and contract. In this case, contract more than a thicker, more quality floor.
I think it was kind of middle of the road, but it's not holding up. So I'm not sure what we can do to fix it, or if we just have to replace it.
Yeah, once it shrinks, if it doesn't, most flooring will shrink during the heating season as it dries out, and then when it gets humid in the summer, it expands. I'm not sure vinyl has got that much movement in it, so you've had it down for a couple of years. Have you ever seen it swell up and close up all those joints?
No.
Yeah,
no,
I wouldn't think it would, no.
Yeah, so I guess I have my answer then. I need a new floor.
Yeah.
I think you might.
I hate that because, I've seen people try to take a colored caulk and fill in gaps like that, but boy, you could spend a lot of time doing that, and then the next change in humidity, then it pops out, and you have even more of an eyesore. So I really wish we had a better solution to it, because I've seen this quite a bit on both engineered floors as well as vinyl plank flooring, which you would think that it would not be affected by the moisture as much, but you do see that quite a bit, unfortunately.
Well, that's what's happened then. So.
Well, I'm sorry we didn't have some better news for you on that.
Yeah, excuse me, Dana. The only thing I would suggest, Janice, if you like the look of vinyl plank flooring and you want vinyl, you can get sheet vinyl flooring that looks like wood planks, and of course, it's seamless. There are, unless you're butting two pieces together. And they actually have vinyl. It's called resilient flooring, vinyl sheet flooring that's floating floor. So it doesn't even get a touch. It's really thick. It doesn't get attached to the subfloor at all. You just lay it out there almost like a area rug, put the molding on top of it, and that's it.
Well, we'll go look for those things then.
Okay. Good. Well, certainly hope you have a great weekend, and hope you find no other problems around your house there.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our pleasure. We like to look at and try to handle a lot of questions where people just leave us recorded questions. We know these are great questions that you might be interested in, so we're going to try to tackle a few of those right now.
Problem is when you turn on the shower and you pull the lever, most of the water comes out the regular spigot and only partly comes out the shower. What's the problem? How can it be solved?
All right. Well, that happens a good bit because of deposits that you have within, just from the use of the water will just make that lift valve just not completely engage. You may want to just spray a little bit of a lubricant down in and around where you're pulling that lever up to kind of free it up. Usually that's all it is to take care of it, just a few little deposits down there. You'll be able to pull all the way up. Now, you can also look at soaking it in vinegar, or actually in pouring some vinegar down in there. That'll help dissolve it. Worst case scenario, you have to take the spout off, which generally is just a matter of turning it counterclockwise and taking it off, and then you can see what's obstructing it down there. And really, worst case scenario, put a new spout on. It's not hard to do. Here's another question.
Can you tell me what is an effective way and or trick to get that buildup of dust and dirt and mold and food, whatever else is in, that gets in between the cabinets and the floor in your kitchen, regardless of how much you mop, throw water on it, sweep? It just doesn't seem to stay in check. Do you have some solution to that you could share? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I do. I'm not sure it's exactly a trick, but I do have a solution, I think. First, I'd start by spraying the area with an all-purpose household cleaner, something like Mr. Clean, something like that. But the trick is to soak the surface and then wait about 10 minutes. If it starts to dry out, spray it again. You want to get it good and wet. And the idea is this cleanser will soften the dirt and grime first, and then use a flexible blade putty knife to scrape away as much of that softened gunk as you can, because you don't want to just start wiping it. You'll wipe it all over the floor. So scrape up as much as you can, and then spray it again if you need to, if it still looks dirty, and then try. At that point, you can use a scouring pad or a scrub brush to get the last bit off. Now, if you try that, I would just try it in a short area, a small area. If that works, great, continue. If it doesn't, you may need to step up to something a little stronger, and I would suggest Simple Green. They make a product called Industrial Cleaner and Degreaser, and that would definitely work. Okay, let's try a next question.
My name is Dick Green. I've got a good question for you. I'm sure you've never had before. Woodchucks. Woodchucks destroy more buildings. They get in, they dig holes around the foundations in a northern climate. Water gets in there in the wintertime, breaks up the foundation, and in 10 or 12 years, the building is gone, okay? How do you get rid of the things? How do you get them out of the hole? You don't dare put an exhaust pipe down there because you're liable to set the building on fire. It's a real conundrum.
Oh, boy. Well,
Dick Green's got woodchuck problems,
yeah,
Danny. What are you going to tell him?
Certainly do. There's some aggressive, mean woodchucks. Well, I'll tell you, one of the things, you just have to go to war. You know the old character of Bill Murray in Caddyshack and how determined
yeah, right.
he was. Now, I wouldn't suggest dynamite, but here's a few suggestions because we actually have had that question a good bit. Several different things you can try. Sprinkle blood meal, ground black pepper, hair clippings, or talcum powder around the perimeter of the building or garden. A lot of times that's all it takes to make a move somewhere else. Also, you can puree and strain hot peppers and garlic and mix them with water with enough liquid soap to kind of make it
That
stick.
sounds good.
I know it. Well, other than the liquid soap. And spray,
right.
spray it liberally around all of that area. Another way that you can try, don't try these all at one time. Try, one at a time. Another one is urine-saturated clumps of kitty litter inside the burrow. A lot of times that will repel them and make them go, what the heck is this? And move on. And but in some cases, trapping and relocating might be the only solutions. I do agree with you, though, Dick. They do cause a lot of problems, but there's just a few little solutions. We'll make sure that gets posted to todayshomeowner.com. Another question.
Hi, the name is Laura from Milford, Delaware. We took our Formica, that was the backsplash, that went up to the cabinets off of the wall because we're getting granite and tile. Now, when we took the Formica off, there's still like a residue of glue, and then in some places, right down to the paper on the drywall even came off. What will we have to do to prepare that wall to put tile up?
Okay, well, the glue left behind is probably contact cement, and as long as it's, which would be a very thin coat, as long as it's adhered really well, it's not bubbling off or peeling off, pulling the paper with it, and it's secured well, I don't think you need to worry about the glued section. But where the paper has been torn off, I would skim coat it with joint compound just to get it nice and smooth. Skim coat it, let it dry, sand it lightly with like 120 grit sandpaper. Very important to then wipe off a damp cloth, wipe up all the sanding dust, get it as dry as you can get it, and then you can spread your thin set mortar and apply the tile. Okay, let's go on to the next question.
I was listening to your program, and you said you had an Epsom salt weed killer that would really kill things. I hope it would kill English ivy, because I'm inundated with it. And I would like to know what the ingredients is, please.
All right. Certainly, we'll be glad to share those with you, as we have hundreds and hundreds of people that were really intrigued by this way of controlling a lot of the weeds that you have around your house without having to use a lot of harsh chemicals. So here we go. In a spray bottle, you want to add half a cup of Epsom salt, 1 quart of white vinegar, and a few squirts of dish detergent. Shake well and spray directly on the ivy. The detergent, what it does is it really helps the solution to stick to the leaves. And within 2 or 3 days, that ivy should start drying up and dying. I think we have time for just one more to squeeze in here.
We think our dishwasher just bit the dust maybe a couple of weeks ago. It doesn't turn on. It's about 11 years old. Just wondered if it should try repairing that, or should we just expect to replace it since it's 11 years old? And what you would recommend for a replacement? I'd like to get something that would last more than 11 years. It's not terribly expensive.
Okay, well, it's always hard to tell people when to replace an appliance, whether it makes sense to try to repair it. But most dishwashers last between 7 and 12 years, and you've gotten 11 years out of it, so it's probably at the end of its serviceable life anyway. So I'd say it's time for a new dishwasher. So just go out, shop around, and buy one. Now, you can spend up to $1,000 on some of these dishwashers, but you could certainly get a very good dishwasher between $350 and $450, I would say, which isn't bad. And if you're not using it all the time, you'd certainly get 10 or 12 years out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And you may want to check on the consumer reports, because the sound of the particular dishwasher is really, really important. We're in the process of that on our new house, looking at a variety of dishwashers, just trying to make it as quiet a home as possible. And that's a big key in the design of those dishwashers these days. Hey, thanks for all of the calls that came in this week on today's Homeowner Hotline. And you can call us in anytime and leave your question for us at 1-800-946-4420. So much fun we have here, hopefully helping homeowners out all over the country with some of those challenges they have as a homeowner. And a lot of those solutions come from our simple solutions. And Joe has one for us right now. Okay, Danny, I thought I'd share this one because I had heard from a listener who saw this online at todayshomeowner.com, this simple solution. And he was having trouble trying to figure out how to make square crosscuts with a circular saw because he was new to home improvement and he just couldn't get a nice square cut. So he went online, he found this tip, so I thought I'd share it. We photographed and videotaped this probably about a year and a half or two ago, so you can go online and find it. But all you need are 2 pieces of wood, and you're going to make like a T-shaped little fixture for guiding the saw against. And so you're going to start with a 1x4. There's a pine 1x4 that's going to be the fence, cut it about 18 to 20 inches long. And then you want to get a 1/2-inch plywood cleat and cut it about 3 inches wide by 16 inches long. Then you glue and screw these 2 pieces together to form, like I said, a capital T-shaped fixture. And you want to glue it and screw it, but use a framing square to make sure these 2 pieces are exactly at 90 degrees. Otherwise, obviously, you're not going to end up with a square cut. And that's all you need to do. And in order to cut it, in order to make a square crosscut, you just hold it in place and you guide your saw along the fence, the 1x4 fence, and you get a perfectly square cut. Now, the other trick is when you cut the plywood cleat, cut it a little longer than necessary, and to make the first cut, you just trim that off. And then you can use that to line it up with your cut line. So you don't have to do any markings other than make one little mark. You don't have to draw a line, one little mark. You line up the end of the cleat with that mark, and then you know the blade's going to cut on there because you just trimmed that off with the blade. Now, if you change saws, that might differ, but if you use the same saw and the same blade, it's a little hard to describe all this on the radio, but if you go todayshomeowner.com/simple solutions and just search for like crosscut guide for circular saw, you'll see the video will pop right up. Boy, that's a great way to have just one of these little jigs that you would have that you can make. And you may want to use a little glue to glue that together to make it more durable. And drill a hole in it so you can hang it on your shop wall. And if you have a project coming up where you have a lot of repetitive cuts, it's well worth creating a little jig like this for the accuracy, speed, and everything there. Make it a little bit more pleasant to take care of that. That's great. Again, like Joe said, todayshomeowner.com/simple solutions to find not only that simple solution, but almost 500 more. And so we've got some milestones here coming up, Joe. We've got to figure out how to celebrate. We'll be very soon announcing our 300th 500th radio station, and we're going to be so proud to be able to do that. And then, of course, our 500th episode of today's Homeowner television show. So,
500th Simple Solution.
Yep, the 500 Simple Solution. Champagne is in our future. You know, we really need to think about that.
I like that idea.
Yeah, so we're going to have to do something special on that. That's really going to be good. Well, it's time now for our podcast question of the week, and you can send us one by going to todayshomeowner.com/podcast. Jackie from Pennsylvania writes, I have a home built in the early 60s. The interior walls are made of a fiberboard that shows seams. Currently, they are wallpapered. The walls seem to absorb moisture when it's damp outside and the house smells musty. I'd love to have drywall or wood walls, but unsure if it's safe to remove this fiberboard, let alone all the mess, dust, and work. Help me out. Any suggestions? You know, that fiberboard, Joe, probably something similar to like manufactured homes, mobile homes, that type of thing. Probably a 1/4 inch thick. It's a vertical sheets, has the seams and that kind of thing. Certainly that could be removed. And, of course, when you remove that, you're also removing your electrical plates, switch plates, window trim, crown molding, base molding, all that kind of thing. So it can end up being quite a sizable project. But by doing that, then they can add to the insulation that may or may not be there. If it's built in the 60s, most likely the insulation is not adequate for today's standards. So that's the advantage of being able to make it more energy efficient before they put wood walls or probably more feasible drywall. But in the way that it is right now, if they wanted to work with what they have, certainly I've seen a lot of successes in using drywall compound, joint compound, to tape and mud over the seams to make it more presentable, and then just encapsulate the whole thing. What do you think?
Yeah, if Jackie said that the walls are perfectly fine, but she's just tired of looking at them and she wants to upgrade, there was no moisture or musty smelling problem, then I would maybe even recommend just going over it either, as you said, tape the seams, or just going right over with drywall. But I'd be concerned you might be trapping moisture behind this old fiberboard, and then what? So I think your idea of removing it, if you want to tackle that bigger project, you'd be able to upgrade the insulation, remove any insulation that's wet, get rid of, let it all dry out in case the framing is wet and moldy. Because, I mean, I would just hate to seal it up, because if there's a moisture problem, it's going to be a moisture problem with the new wall as well.
Right, and that certainly warrants looking closely at the envelope of the home around the windows and doors or any potential roof leaks, and making sure that everything is going to work out, really well for you long term. Okay, that pretty well takes care of our podcast for this week. We certainly appreciate you spending some time with us. Take a little time and include a review for us. Again, this week we got a number of 5-star reviews. We appreciate that. It might be odd to talk about this, but that's the way the podcast world works. It kind of raises you up in the ranks a little bit so that more people can enjoy our podcast. We appreciate you being with us. I'm Danny Lipford along with Joe Truini. We'll see you again on the next podcast.